our 5th video podcast. My name is Georgine and I'm a nutrition scientist working on the education team at the British Nutrition Foundation. In this podcast, we will continue to look at the Eat Well plate, this time concentrating on the foods and drinks high in fat and or sugar group. In the nutrition feature, we will focus on salt, how much we have in our diet, and why we should be careful not to eat too much. To eat healthily, it's a good idea to watch how much fat and sugar we eat, although they can add palatability and enjoyment to our foods. The key message is that we should consume just a small amount of foods and drinks high in fat and or sugar. Let's look at fat. It is important to have a small amount of fat in our diet because fat helps the body absorb the vitamins A, D, and E. It also provides energy and the essential fatty acids the body cannot make itself. Because fat is a concentrated source of energy, it makes it easy for us to take in more energy than we need. This means we might be more likely to put on weight if we eat a lot of foods high in fat. So, we should try to eat foods high in fat only occasionally, and whenever possible, look for lower fat alternatives. There are different types of dietary fat, and most importantly, we should try to cut down on foods high in saturated fat, which can be damaging to our health. Saturated fat in our diet can increase the amount of cholesterol in our blood over time, high levels of which can increase the chance of developing heart disease later in life. One of the best ways to cut down on fat is to compare the labels of different food products and choose those with lower amounts. Many food manufacturers have been working hard to reduce the amount of saturated fat contained in their products. Let's see what the team at B&F suggests to help us cut down on fat, especially saturated fat.
An easy way to cut down on saturated fat is to cut down the amount of butter and buttery spreads that you're using and opt instead for those that are made with vegetable oils, so olive oil, rapeseed oil, sunflower oil, because they're predominantly rich in unsaturated fatty acids instead. And if you're trying to cut down on total fat or you're trying to reduce the amount of calories in your diet, then an easy thing to do is opt for the lower fat versions of these.
Choose lower fat dairy foods. These still contain the nutrients calcium and protein.
You could grate cheese instead of slicing it, or use a stronger flavoured cheese in order to use less.
Eat chicken without the skin.
When you're choosing food products, compare the labels to pick those with less total fat or saturated fat.
Eat healthier snacks when you're on the go, such as fresh fruit or rice cakes instead of cakes or pastries.
When you're making sandwiches, try not using any butter or spread if the filling, such as tuna or hummus, is moist. When you do use spread, opt for a reduced fat variety and choose one that is soft straight from the fridge so that it's easier to spread thinly.
Rather than cream or sour cream in recipes, try using reduced or low-fat yoghurt or reduced fat creme fraiche or fromage frais.
Now let's look at sugar. The Food Standards Agency suggests that many of us are eating too much sugar and that we should be trying to eat fewer sugar-containing foods such as confectionery, cakes and biscuits, and drink fewer sugar-containing drinks. Having foods and drinks high in sugar too often is associated with an increased risk of dental caries. The amount of sugar consumed at any one time appears to be less important than how often food and drinks high in sugar are consumed. Dentists recommend children do not consume food and drinks high in sugar more than 4 times a day. To protect teeth, they should be cleaned at least twice a day with fluoride toothpaste and once a day with dental floss. There are a number of different types of sugar. One of the most well-known is sucrose or table sugar. Different sugars occur naturally in milk and fruit and are also ingredients in many types of manufactured foods. Here are some practical tips that can help us cut down on sugar. Check food labels to help you select the foods and drinks with less added sugar. Drink water, low-calorie soft drinks, or you could dilute fruit juice with plain or sparkling water for a change. Try a currant bun or scone instead of cakes. If you take sugar in hot drinks, gradually reduce the amount of sugar you add. Reduce the sugar you use in your recipes. It works for most things except jam, meringues and ice cream. Choose canned fruit in juice rather than in syrup. The second part of the video podcast will focus on salt and how much we should have in our diet. Salt is made up of sodium and chloride, and it's the sodium in salt which can be bad for our health. When looking at labels, there may be two figures, one for salt and one for sodium. There may be just a figure for sodium. To convert the sodium figure into salt, we need to multiply it by 2.5. For example, if the food provides 0.6 gram of sodium per 100 grams, that means it gives us 1.5 grams of salt per 100 grams. One type of front-of-pack labeling developed by the Food Standards Agency is called traffic light labeling, and it gives us a helpful guide for salt. More than 1.5 grams of salt per 100 grams or 0.6 gram of sodium is considered to be a high level of salt. Between 0.3 gram and 1.5 grams is considered a medium amount of salt. 0.3 gram of salt per 100 grams or less is considered low. The Guideline Daily Amounts, or GDAs, is another type of front-of-pack labeling scheme being used by several manufacturers and some retailers. The percentage of the GDAs is shown below each value.
So, in this example, a 25-gram serving of the food provides 0.5 gram of salt, which is 8% of the maximum amount that's acceptable for an adult to have each day. We can use this to compare the salt value and choose products with the lowest one.
Adults should have no more than 6 grams of salt a day. On average, people are actually having 8.6 grams a day, so most of us need to cut down. Babies and young children need to eat much less because their kidneys cannot cope with any extra salt. Babies only need a very small amount of sodium and will get all they need from breast milk or formula. It's important not to add any salt to the foods babies and young children are given. These are the maximum amounts of salt children should have in a day. 1 to 3 years, no more than 2 grams a day or 0.8 gram of sodium. 4 to 6 years, no more than 3 grams a day or 1.2 grams of sodium. 7 to 10 years, no more than 5 grams a day or 2 grams of sodium. 11 and or over, no more than 6 grams a day or 2.5 grams of sodium. Eating too much salt can raise our blood pressure. People with high blood pressure are much more likely to develop heart disease or have a stroke when they get older. On average, 3/4 of the salt we eat is already in the food we buy. So it's important to check food labels to make sure we don't eat too much salt. Even if we don't add salt to our food, we could easily be eating too much without realizing it. Over recent years, many commercially made food products have been reformulated to reduce their salt content. Here are a few practical tips to help you cut down on salt. Go for non-salted nuts or reduced salt crisps, or for a change, try fruit or rice cakes. Cut down on heavily salted foods such as some processed meats, pickles, and salted fish. Choose canned vegetables that say no added salt or canned in water, not brine. Try to avoid adding salt to your cooking and replace it with lemon juice, herbs, or spices for flavor. Remember to taste food first before adding salt to it. That's it for this episode. The next video podcast will focus on diet and activity. I hope you can join us next time. If you need any nutrition information before that, why not log on to our website nutrition.org.uk or visit foodafactoflife.org.uk. Bye for now.